I want to talk about the world. The world is being a thing. Yesterday there was a ton of bumblebees. They were out getting all of the pollen off of the goldenrod or wildflowers. I could see all the ones that have been pollinated and moved on. They start to dwindle in their little poofy flowery thing. And looks like I'm probably going to be able to get my truck fixed fairly soon, fairly reasonably. I think to be able to have four-wheel drive in the winter. If you haven't figured out that the inmates are running the asylum right now, and actually maybe just always were, had ourselves convinced otherwise, maybe it didn't change, maybe it's just we changed. I don't want to talk about any of the shit. Any of it. Crazy stuff coming out of the fucking president's mouth, dude. Crazy shit. It's not edited. It's not propaganda. It's legit crazy shit coming out the man's mouth. Part of the problem with what's going on in the world is kind of an apathetic, faux empathy. The whole, well, I don't want to step on any toes, though, mentality. Sometimes you kind of have to. Sorry, bro, your toe was in the way. You knew I was coming through. Sometimes you kind of got to step on some toes. Doesn't mean you got to go around kicking, stomping, none of that. It just means that from time to time, you are going to encroach on somebody else's comfort zone. And if you're being truthful, speaking about what is real and actual, doesn't matter if their little feelings are hurt. Just like if you're actually not right, or if I'm actually not right about something, and someone else comes along with a stronger force field of truth to push through, it may take me a second of, okay, fine, I guess you're right. And that's how you're supposed to do it. Grumble at yourself, accept what is actually true, and begin to assimilate that into your knowledge base so that you don't accidentally revert back to old information from before you found out you were wrong about something. I think a lot of people are like that. I think that kind of lets that was like the initial foothold that got people to be into such a weird way that how do I want to put this? People are so obsessed these days with being seen as caring. That's the whole thing online. Make sure you signal this, make sure you show that. Demonstrate this through your profile picture or your little comment or things that you share on your timeline that they, curate who can see what, all that stuff or whatever. Just, it's not even pissing into the wind. You're just pissing into a river. A river of piss. You're pissing into a river of piss. But people have become accustomed to the way that social media works. The social aspect of it being that it's possible to publicly mass shame people from a distance. Sometimes this can be effective to get really fucking stupid people to come around on shit. At the same time, though, if you're tricking them into it, it's really not legit. They have to come around on their own. And if they can't come around on their own, then they are irredeemable in that respect. I'm not saying they have no value. I'm saying that as far as correcting people who are incorrect, some people can't. So I believe that was rooted initially in the same basic generic empathy, which is now how you have to be to try not to get canceled. So here is something I will speak a little more directly on. There is a band. I don't know whether I consider myself a fan of this band anymore because of what they're doing right now. I could say that the reason that I'm not a professional musician or touring, composing, writing, any of that. I could say that the reason is because I lack originality, the tenacity to really, push myself in that respect. It's always been more of a hobby, even though at times I thought it might be something I could try and make into a profession. The way it works in the world today, if you want to make a decent living playing music, you've either got to grind forever in obscurity or you've got to get ultra lucky or sell out. None of those sound good. Which is why when I changed the direction of where my life was headed and kind of took a stab at happiness for a decade or so, I sidelined all my musical ambitions for the purpose of putting other people before me. And derived great happiness for a long time through that. But I'm not ignorant of how things work. I have over the years known a few people in the business. Now, with the advent of YouTube and the ridiculous amount of behind the scenes information overload, it's a good thing I got a big sponge to soak up a lot of info. Things of relevant interest I definitely pay attention to. So I'm aware of how things work. So there's a band. This band has released music. The music that they've released, from what I'm able to gather without delving into it personally, because I'm just kind of at a standstill on it, like, I've seen this movie. This is such a rerun millions of times. Either you get into it and it takes you and you see where they're coming from on it and think it's something, or you see exactly what they're doing or what is being done to them with them. The advent of gangster rap in the 1990s was not organic. It was not by accident. It was not by inspiration. It was not because that was what people wanted to hear. Shortly before, that type of music gained major mainstream prominence, took over the Grammys. You had G's and Thugs and Clayman and Limpin' and all kinds of stuff going on. People got shot. All this stuff going on. A few years before this occurred, some laws were passed that changed the way things work in the judicial system, made the prison population housing into an industry itself, a lucrative industry. And over time, the effects of these laws that were put in place and the cultural shift simultaneously to promote a particular type of culture, behavior, and mentality through this music that previously was not the big thing. Previously, a positive message, intelligent lyrics, poetry, or at least not talking about guns, drugs, and bitches. Completely transformed the type of music, completely transformed the music industry, completely transformed the culture to the point that then, because of a lot of bad stereotypes and people who were victims of this culture, the lucrative prison population housing industry really took off. And it's been that way pretty much ever since. A few slight little, we're going to do something, we're going to change, we're going to close it. Everyone they close, they probably open another one. Take a guess at which type of prisoner they charge the most for from the government to house. I'll give you a hint. It's the ones that there's the most of. That was before social media. Over the years, I have noticed a lot of times there have been artists and musicians who decide to speak out against the top of the pyramid, as it were. They either play it safe, just be generic and don't actually say anything. Like R.A. the Rugged Man on any of his raps that talk about like that who do we trust and all this stuff. There's no specifics, there's no details, just y'all know the government's corrupt, we can't trust him, who do we trust? No one. Okay, did you say anything? You mentioned 9/11. You didn't say anything. You didn't even say anything about it, you just mentioned 9/11. Or in the case of a band like Rage Against the Machine, what you're advocating is, in fact, what they're eventually moving toward, and it's let to be. So you got a band that just released an album, about to go on tour, doing their whole thing, showing off, rebellion, all this other stuff, right? And to some extent, you can use that to culturally get people to be a certain way or whatever. The problem is one of the problems, is the majority of listeners are outside the country in which this band lives and operates. The laws and the culture are different everywhere else. This idea of resistance, we've already seen from the other direction. Instead of resisting the top of the pyramid or the people that are, trying to pull strings and push buttons or whatever, cause a reset of some sort. This band, though, took the name of their album and the title track from an independent artist who already did a song with a video by that name with the same visual concept almost 2 years ago. The video for the song by the same name from which the album is titled was released on that independent artist's birthday. Now, it's not an obscure independent artist. This person has millions of followers on YouTube and Twitter. But nonetheless, this person is an unsigned artist who just recorded a track, made a video, released it to his audience. I mean, the color scheme, the whole idea seems to be the same, at least at the start. What it appears to be moving on to in the rest, based on the comments I'm seeing from the people that are commenting on their promo videos and such, that they are standing up to the World Economic Forum, this band. Klaus Schwab, you can stick it, right? From their multi-million-dollar, well-lit, well-amplified, probably got a lot of pyrotechnic stage, lasers, enormous crew, all of this stuff, not financed by the band themselves, but by their record label. A major record label. Do you remember what I was just saying about the gangster rap thing and record labels? They did, in fact, have meetings about how they were going to do this. So somewhere they probably had meetings and said, we need to find somebody that's really popular, can speak this stuff out, and what we're going to do is this is my bet as to what happened, we're going to either send them a new producer or we're going to talk to their current producer. And they're going to kind of encourage and maybe nudge, just a little, hey, this thing I saw, check this out. To get them thinking in the direction of wanting to think this is their thing to do. That's called controlled resistance. Controlled resistance is not resistance, it is under control. And the band thinks they are doing this themselves. And for whatever reason, their management, if not the band themselves, chose not only to release the track whose name and video concept they stole on the birthday of the guy they stole it from, but a year and a half, or no, what was that? That was this past March. So now we're looking at somewhere around the time of the release of 2 years ago, the original song. On the day that this independent artist released another song, the next song since the last one 2 years ago, still no record label other than a self-founded independent. On the same day that that song was released, this major label, controlled resistance band, released promos that got more views than this independent artist on the same day, announcing the tour and new videos for other stuff from this album, whose title and title track was taken from an original artist who had already published his material. And they released it on his birthday, and then when he released his next song, they said, hey guys, look over here instead. And the comments on these things are all like, hey, you guys are fighting the power, that's cool. No! They are distracting people from the guy who is doing more to fight the power than most of the rest of us. And yeah, the guy I'm talking about is sometimes a little sellouty, but he's still independent. He is still doing more for the culture, for waking people up, for promoting actual truth above agendas, tribes, and narratives. A good guy. That's who they're distracting from. And people are, you guys are such good guys. No, they're distracting from the good guy, pretending to be good guys, railing against what is most likely a phantom menace. World. Do not give a shit about countries, do not give a shit about wars at this point. I'm against them. Do not give a shit about most of the things that social media, advertising, rules of platforms of these online apps on the devices insisting that things ought to be a certain way, and this is normal, this is real. Bitch, I'm divorced. I've been gaslit. It don't work on me anymore. So, ban all the good content. Drive people away from your platform. Get rid of the thinkers. So you have nothing but sheep watching nothing but shit. When the big one hits, all those people will perish. Civil war happens, all those people will perish. That's all there is to it. That is what is really going on. That is what is really afoot. The plan, the thing they're doing. It's been used by 2 other people that I've seen on YouTube, and so now I'm going to say the word too. And if you don't know what this word is, you need to look it up. The word is democide. D-E-M-O-C-I-D-E. Democide. Democratic, demographic. Demo means people. The people. We the people. Democide. Homicide. Suicide. Pesticide. Side refers to killing. Democide.